The large viewing screens across the capital city of Nexus Prime flickered to life. Billions of beings throughout the 17 sectors of the Voth Imperium paused their daily activities. The Empire's mandatory broadcast was beginning. Jiho Han felt the cold metal restraints dig into her wrists as the prison transport moved toward the central platform. The 16-year-old human exchange student tried to control her breathing. The air in the transport pod was thin and smelled of chemicals. Her heart beat fast against her ribs. "Move, human," the guard said. He was tall with gray-scaled skin and yellow eyes that never blinked. His uniform bore the silver emblem of the Imperial Security Force. Jiho stepped onto the platform. The bright lights of the Grand Imperial Colosseum blinded her for a moment. When her vision cleared, she saw the massive arena filled with thousands of Voth citizens. Many more would be watching across the galaxy. Supreme Executor Krell stood on a floating platform above the crowd. His long ceremonial robes shimmered with embedded technology. 6 elite guards surrounded him, their weapons pointed at Jiho. "Citizens of the glorious Voth Imperium," Krell's voice boomed across the arena. "Today we celebrate 1,000 years of peaceful rule. We have brought order to chaos, knowledge to ignorance, and stability to all worlds under our protection." The crowd roared their approval. Jiho looked at their faces. Some showed excitement, others seemed bored. None showed concern for the human girl about to die. "Yet there are those who would threaten our peace," Krell continued. "The humans, newcomers to our galactic community, have shown their true nature. This female infiltrated our most secure archives. She attempted to steal military secrets that would give Earth an advantage." Jiho wanted to scream that it wasn't true. She had been researching Voth biology for her xenoscience project. The restricted files had opened when she entered a common search term. It was a mistake, not espionage, but no one would listen. The Empire needed a show of power, and humans were still seen as primitive beings, barely worthy of notice except as an example. "For crimes against the Imperium, there is only one sentence," Krell raised his hand. The crowd grew quiet. Jiho thought about her family back on Earth. Her parents would be devastated. They had been so proud when she was selected for the prestigious exchange program. "Our daughter, studying among the stars," her father had said, his eyes bright with tears, and her brother, Do-Wan. Captain Do-Wan Han of the Earth Defense Force had opposed her trip from the start. "The Voth cannot be trusted," he had told her. "Their peaceful appearance hides their true nature. They see other species as tools or threats, nothing more." Jiho had laughed at his concern. "The war ended 30 years ago, brother. We have treaties now. The academic exchange program is proof that relations are improving." Do-Wan's face had turned serious. "Promise me you'll wear this," he had said, giving her a small silver pin. "It's an emergency beacon. If you're ever in danger, activate it." The pin was still attached to the collar of her prison jumpsuit. The guards had assumed it was decorative. They didn't know human technology well enough to recognize its true purpose. Supreme Executor Krell was still speaking. "Let this execution serve as a reminder to all species in our realm. The Voth Imperium is eternal. Our authority is absolute. Our justice is swift." Jiho saw a technician activate the execution chamber. A circle of blue light formed around her feet. Soon that light would rise and disintegrate her body molecule by molecule. It was supposed to be painless, but Jiho had heard rumors that victims felt every second of their dissolution. A young Voth female in the front row caught Jiho's attention. Unlike the others, she wasn't cheering. Her face showed something rare, among the Voth, doubt, perhaps even sympathy. Jiho smiled at her. Even now facing death, Jiho wanted to believe that understanding between species was possible, that her death wouldn't be meaningless. "The human spy Jiho Han will now be eliminated," announced a mechanical voice. "Execution will commence in 10 seconds. Jiho closed her eyes. Her fingers moved to the silver pin on her collar. Do-Wan had shown her how to activate it, a simple sequence of 3 taps. She had never thought she would need to use it. Tap, tap, tap. The pin grew warm against her skin. A small light blinked once, then went dark. The emergency signal was now racing through subspace, carrying not just an alert but something much more valuable. Her neural patterns, her memories, her final thoughts. Standard human technology, as far as the Voth knew. Nothing special. The blue light began to rise around her body. 5 seconds to execution. Jiho opened her eyes. She looked directly at the main broadcast camera. Billions were watching. Let them see that humans faced death with dignity. I forgive you, she said quietly. Not for the cameras, but for herself. But I will not be forgotten. Execution commencing. The blue light enveloped her completely. Jiho felt a strange tingling sensation, then burning pain as her body began to break apart. Her last conscious thought was of Earth, of blue oceans and green forests, of the family she loved, of a sky that seemed to go on forever. Then she was gone. Where Jiho Han had stood, only a small cloud of particles remained, quickly dispersed by the arena's air circulation system. Supreme Executor Krell raised his hands. Justice is served. The human threat is contained. Let the millennial celebrations continue. The crowd erupted in cheers. On the main control deck of the Coliseum, a technician frowned at his monitoring screen. Sir, I detected an unusual transmission from the prisoner just before execution. His supervisor waved a dismissive hand. Humans always try something at the end. Their emergency beacons are primitive. It will take days for the signal to reach Earth through normal channels. Yes, sir, the technician said, removing the alert from his screen. Neither of them knew that Jiho's signal had already reached its destination, not through normal channels but through a hidden network that spanned the galaxy, a network the Voth had never detected. In a secure facility on Earth, a computer registered the death of Jiho Han. Automatic systems began a countdown. 27 minutes until the Voth Imperium would understand their fatal mistake. 27 minutes until everything changed. Captain Do-Won Han stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship Horizon. The massive view screen showed the darkness of space, broken by distant stars and the blue curve of Neptune. The ship had been stationed at the edge of the solar system, running standard patrol exercises. Do-Won checked his watch. The crew would finish their shift in 20 minutes. After that, he planned to review the new defense protocols that Earth Command had sent. Being the youngest captain in the fleet meant he worked twice as hard to prove himself worthy of the position. A sharp pain hit his chest. Do-Won grabbed the edge of his command chair to steady himself. The pain was not physical. It came from somewhere deeper, from the neural link he shared with his sister. All siblings in military families receive these links as children, allowing them to sense each other across vast distances. His sister's presence, which had been a constant warm feeling in the back of his mind for 16 years, suddenly went cold. Jiho, he whispered. His hands began to shake. Commander Subin Park noticed the change in her captain. She had served with Do-Won for 5 years and knew him well. Captain, is everything all right? Do-Won tried to find the neural connection again. There was nothing, only emptiness where his sister's life force had been. Check incoming emergency signals, he ordered, his voice tight. Look for anything from the Voth sectors, specifically from Nexus Prime. Lieutenant Ji-Un Cho at the communication station turned to her console. Her fingers moved quickly over the glowing controls. Captain, we have an incoming transmission. It's your sister's emergency beacon. The bridge went silent. Everyone knew that Jiho Han was on Nexus Prime as part of the academic exchange program. An emergency signal from that location was serious. Put it on screen, Do-Won said. The view screen changed. Numbers and data streamed across it, showing the beacon's activation and termination points. Both had happened within seconds of each other. At the bottom of the screen, red text flashed. Neural pattern transfer complete. Life signs terminated. They killed her, Do-Won said. The words felt strange in his mouth. Unreal. The Voth executed my sister. Subin moved closer. Her face showed concern and anger. But she was protected under the Academic Exchange Treaty. She was a student, not a soldier. Pull up the Imperial broadcast, Dewan ordered. They always show their executions. Let's see what they're claiming she did. Ji-un worked at her station. Accessing Voth public channels now, sir. The screen changed again. Now they saw the Grand Imperial Coliseum on Nexus Prime. The execution had just finished. Supreme Executor. Krell was speaking to the crowd about justice and the might of the Voth Imperium. A small cloud of particles, all that remained of Jiho Han, floated in the air before dispersing. They're saying she was a spy, Ji-un said, her voice shaking with anger. That she tried to steal military secrets. Do-won watched in silence. He saw the timestamp on the broadcast. The execution had happened just 3 minutes ago. 3 minutes since his sister had died. Magnify the collar of her prison uniform, he said. The image zoomed in. The silver emergency beacon was visible, still attached to Jiho's collar as her body dissolved. She activated it just before they killed her, Do-won said. The neural transfer is complete. Subin looked confused. Neural transfer? I thought those beacons just sent location data. Do-won turned to face his crew. These were people he trusted with his life. Now he would trust them with something much bigger. What I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest level, he said. The emergency beacons given to exchange students and diplomats do more than send distress signals. They record and transmit the wearer's complete neural pattern, their memories, thoughts, and experiences, in the moment of crisis. But why? Asked Lieutenant Minho Kim from the tactical station. What good does that do if the person is already dead? Because it provides proof, Do-won said. Proof that can be shared instantly with every human in the galaxy. He turned to Ji-un. Lieutenant Cho, transmit Jiho's neural data to all EDF ships. Authorization code Han Alpha 9. Ji-un hesitated for only a moment before entering the command. Data transmitting, sir. What are you planning, Captain? Subin asked quietly. I'm not planning anything, Do-won replied. I'm activating what was already planned long ago. Contact Earth Command and tell them to initiate Protocol Nemesis. The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. Protocol Nemesis was something they had heard mentioned only in whispers. It was supposed to be a theoretical last resort never meant to be implemented. Captain, Subin said, Nemesis has never been tested in a real situation. We don't know if it will work as designed. It will work, Do-won said with certainty. Earth has been preparing for this possibility since the first human stepped onto an alien world. He walked to the main navigation console and entered a series of commands. The ship's engine hummed as it shifted to a higher power output. Set. Course for Nexus Prime, he ordered. Maximum speed. That's deep in Voth territory, Minho pointed out. Their defense fleet outnumbers us 1,000 to 1. Numbers won't matter, Do-won said. Not where we're going. Not after what's about to happen. Across human space, military and civilian vessels received Jiho's neural recording. Captains and commanders watched as the young student's final moments played out in vivid detail. They felt her fear, her courage, and her forgiveness as she died. On Earth, Defense Minister Tae-hyun Ryu called an emergency session of the United Earth Government. It lasted exactly 90 seconds. The vote to activate Protocol Nemesis was unanimous. In hidden shipyards throughout the solar system, experimental vessels powered up. Their designs were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. On colony worlds and space stations, dormant systems that had been disguised as ordinary infrastructure came online. 12 minutes after Jiho's execution, every human ship in the galaxy changed course. They moved with perfect coordination, as if guided by a single mind. The Voth Empire's intelligence analysts noticed the unusual pattern. They reported it to their superiors, who dismissed it as an emotional reaction. Humans were known for their feelings, their attachments. This was probably some kind of mourning ritual, they decided. On the Imperial capital, an aide approached Supreme Executor Krell with a data tablet. The execution celebration was still ongoing, with Krell at the center of the festivities. Excellency, the aide said nervously, Our sensors are detecting unusual energy signatures from human territories. Krell barely glanced at the tablet. Their primitive displays of outrage are not our concern. Continue with the celebrations. Sir, the aide persisted, these energy readings don't match any known human technology in our database. This caught Krell's attention. Explain. The signatures suggest some form of spatial manipulation on a scale our scientists believed impossible for human technology. And the readings are accelerating. For the first time in his 300-year life, Supreme Executor Krell felt a flicker of genuine concern. On the horizon, Do Wan Han watched the countdown on his screen. 24 minutes had passed since Jiho's death. 3 minutes remaining, he announced to his crew. Prepare for transition. The ship's new drive system hummed with power as it prepared to do what the Voth believed was impossible, create a stable wormhole directly to the heart of their empire. For Jiho, Do Wan whispered. And for all of humanity. 15 minutes after Jiho Han's execution, alarm systems activated throughout the Voth Empire. Something impossible was happening. On the Imperial capital world, Supreme Executor Krell left the celebration and rushed to the Central Command Center. The massive chamber was filled with analysts and military officers working at glowing control stations. Large screens covered the walls, showing star maps and fleet positions. Report, Krell demanded as he entered. General Vex, head of Imperial Defense, stepped forward. His face showed concern, which was rare for a senior Voth officer. Excellency, we are detecting unusual activity in all human territories, Vex said. Their ships are moving in coordinated patterns. Their communications have increased by 600%. What are they planning? Krell asked. An attack? Unknown, Excellency. Their ships are not moving toward our borders. They appear to be rearranging themselves. Krell looked at the main screen. It showed the positions of known human vessels throughout the galaxy. The ships were indeed moving in strange patterns, forming complex geometric shapes that made no tactical sense. Is this some kind of mourning ritual? Krell asked. A response to the execution? Possibly, Vex admitted. Humans are known for their emotional reactions. However, our sensors are also detecting energy signatures that do not match known human technology. Explain. A science officer approached with a data tablet. Excellency, these readings suggest dimensional manipulation technology. The humans are creating small, controlled ruptures in space-time. Impossible, Krell said. Human science is primitive compared to ours. They have no such capabilities. The science officer looked uncomfortable. That is what our intelligence reports have always indicated, but the evidence suggests otherwise. On another screen, images appeared from Nexus Prime, where Jiho Han had been executed. The planetary defense systems were showing unusual patterns. Diagnostic programs reported no issues, yet something was changing in their basic code. Have any human ships entered our territory? Krell asked. No, Excellency, General Vex replied. That is what makes this situation so unusual. They appear to be responding, but not in any way we understand. 18 minutes after Jiho's execution, the situation changed dramatically. A young officer at one of the monitoring stations suddenly stood up. General, I am detecting a spatial anomaly forming near Nexus Prime. The main screen shifted to show the space around Nexus Prime. A point of light appeared, growing rapidly into a swirling vortex of energy. Impossible, General Vex whispered. That's a stable wormhole. Humans don't have this technology. From the wormhole emerged a single ship. The sensors identified it as the Earth Defense Force vessel Horizon. Only one ship? Krell said with relief. This is not an invasion force. Sir, the science officer interrupted. We're detecting similar anomalies forming near every major Voth world. Hundreds of them. The screens showed the same phenomenon repeating across Voth space. Wormholes opening, human ships emerging. Not in attack formations, but in precise positions around key Voth installations. Raise all planetary shields, Krell ordered. Alert the defense fleet. Prepare for possible attack. General Vex moved to comply but stopped when his control panel flashed red. Excellency, something is wrong with our defense network. Commands are not being processed correctly. Across the Voth Empire, automated defense systems began to behave strangely. Planetary shields flickered. Weapons platforms powered down. Communication networks experienced disruptions. On the horizon, Captain Do Wan Han stood on the bridge, looking at the Imperial capital world on his view screen. His ship had emerged from the wormhole exactly as planned, taking up position directly above the central command center. Status report, he ordered. All systems operating at optimal levels, Commander Subin Park replied. Wormhole generation successful. Position achieved with 99% accuracy. And the nanites? Subin checked her console. Deployed. And functioning. Integration with Voth systems at 60% and climbing rapidly. Duwan nodded. Open a channel to all Imperial communication networks. It's time they understood what they've done. In the Imperial Command Center, Krell was growing more frustrated. Nothing was working as it should. Reports came in from across the Empire of systems failing without explanation. What is happening? He demanded. Why can't we counter this? Before anyone could answer, every screen in the command center changed. The face of Captain Do Wan Han appeared, looking directly at them. This is Captain Do Wan Han of Earth. His voice was calm but firm. 27 minutes ago, you murdered my sister to demonstrate your power. Now we will demonstrate ours. Krell stepped forward. This is Supreme Executor Krell of the Voth Imperium. Your act of aggression will be met with overwhelming force. One human ship cannot. You still don't understand, Do Wan interrupted. We are not here to fight you. We are here to show you the truth. Across the Empire, on billions of screens, Jiho Han's execution played again. But this time, it included something the Voth had never seen. The event from Jiho's perspective. Her thoughts, her feelings, her forgiveness, even as she died. The neural technology that recorded my sister's final moments is only the beginning of what humanity has kept hidden, Do Wan continued. For decades, we have allowed you to believe we were technologically inferior. That was by design. In the command center, the science officer was checking readings on his tablet. His hands shook as he approached Krell. Excellency, we're detecting microscopic machines throughout our systems. They appear to have been dormant until now. Nanites? Krell asked. How is this possible? When did they infiltrate our defenses? They've been here all along, the science officer realized. Every human who visited our worlds brought them. Students, diplomats, tourists. General Vex looked horrified. The academic exchange program, we invited them in. On the screen, Do Wan continued. The young student you killed was innocent. She accessed restricted files by accident. But that truth didn't matter to you. You needed a spectacle, a demonstration of your power. 23 minutes after Jiho's death, the nanites reached every critical system in the Voth Empire. In orbit around each Voth world, human ships maintained their positions. They weren't firing weapons. They didn't need to. We could destroy your entire civilization, Do Wan said. The nanites could shut down life support on all your worlds. They could disrupt the gravity generators in your cities. But that is not our way. In the command center, Krell tried to activate emergency protocols, but nothing responded to his commands. The Empire's vast military power was useless. What do you want? Krell finally asked, his voice less confident now. Justice, Do Wan replied, and understanding. The screens changed again. This time they showed images from Earth and human colonies, families, children playing, cities built in harmony with nature, schools where different species studied together. 27 minutes, Do Wan said. That's how long it took us to neutralize your empire after you killed my sister. Remember that before you mistake our peaceful nature for weakness again. In homes and public spaces across the Voth Empire, citizens watched as their invincible government was rendered powerless not through violence, but through superior technology that had been hidden in plain sight. A young Voth female who had witnessed Jiho's execution in person looked at the screen. In her home, she saw the human girl's memories, felt her forgiveness. Something changed in her understanding of the universe. She was not alone. Millions of Voth were experiencing the same revelation. The species they had dismissed as primitive had just proven to be far more advanced than they had ever imagined, and 27 minutes after executing an innocent human girl, the Voth Imperium found itself at humanity's mercy. 25 minutes after Jiho Han's execution, Captain Do Wan Han's shuttle landed in the central plaza of the Imperial Palace. The massive stone building had stood for thousands of years as a symbol of Voth power. Now it represented their greatest mistake. Do Wan stepped out of the shuttle, accompanied by Commander Subin Park and Lieutenant Jiun Cho. They wore standard Earth Defense Force uniforms with no weapons visible. They didn't need them. A group of Voth officials waited nervously. Supreme Executor Krell stood at the front, his usual confidence replaced by uncertainty. The Imperial Guard stood nearby, their weapons lowered. The nanites had made sure they couldn't be fired. "Captain Han," Krell said, forcing his voice to remain steady, "your display of power is impressive, but surely we can resolve this situation through diplomatic channels." Duan looked at the Voth leader without expression. "You had that chance. You chose execution instead." Inside the palace, they walked through grand halls decorated with artworks from 1,000 conquered worlds. Krell led them to the Imperial throne room, where the ruling council had gathered in emergency session. Large screens covered the walls, showing scenes from across the Empire. On every Voth world, human ships held position over key installations. The nanite network continued to spread, taking control of more systems with each passing second. "Why didn't we detect this technology before?" asked Councillor Mira, the head of Imperial Science. "Our scans showed human vessels to be primitive compared to ours." "Because we showed you exactly what we wanted you to see," Subin explained. "The vessels you scanned were real, but incomplete. Key components were hidden beneath layers of technology designed to fool your sensors." Ji-un added, "And the nanites were designed to remain dormant until activated. They were programmed to appear as ordinary dust particles or harmless microbes." "The academic exchange program," Krell said with sudden understanding. "Every student brought more of these machines into our worlds." Do Wan nodded. Jiho was the 500th human student to visit Nexus Prime in the last 20 years. Each carried nanites that integrated with your systems, waiting for a signal. "But why maintain this deception?" Councillor Mira asked. "If you possessed such advanced technology, why hide it?" "We learned long ago that revealing too much too quickly leads to fear," Duwan explained, "and fear leads to conflict. We wanted peaceful relations, not an arms race." On the screens, images appeared from across human space. Hidden shipyards revealed vessels of advanced design. Research facilities showcased technology far beyond what the Voth had believed possible. "After the first contact wars 30 years ago, humanity made a decision," Subin said. "We would advance our technology in secret while presenting a more acceptable face to the galaxy. We hoped it would never be necessary to reveal the truth." Krell looked at the screens with a mixture of fear and fascination. "How many other species know your true capabilities?" "None," Do-Wan said simply. "Until today." In the central plaza outside the palace, thousands of Voth citizens had gathered. They watched on public screens as the truth about humanity unfolded. Many had questions. Some felt fear. Others felt something new: respect for the species they had dismissed as inferior. Among the crowd was the young Voth female who had witnessed Jiho's execution. Her name was Tella, and she worked as a junior researcher in the xenobiology department at the Imperial Academy. She had met Jiho once during a lecture, impressed by the humans' questions and enthusiasm. Tella pushed through the crowd to reach the palace steps. A human officer stood there coordinating with Earth vessels in orbit. "Excuse me," Tella said. "I knew Jiho Han. We weren't friends, but we had spoken. I want to help somehow." The officer looked at her with surprise. "Help how?" "I don't know, exactly. But what happened to her was wrong. Many of us knew it was wrong, but we were afraid to speak up." The officer studied her for a moment, then nodded. Come with me. Inside the throne room, the discussion continued. The Voth Council was beginning to understand the full extent of their situation. Your control of our systems is complete, Councillor Mira acknowledged. Our military is neutralized. Our government communications are in your hands. By all measures, the Voth Imperium has fallen. Yes, Dowan agreed. What happens now? Krell asked. Will you destroy us? Replace our government with your own? No, Dowan said. Destruction is your way, not ours. We have a different proposal. Eddie, that moment the officer entered with Tella. Dowan turned to look at the young Voth female. You were at the execution, he said. It wasn't a question. Tella nodded. I saw your sister die. I wanted to object, but I was afraid. Fear has ruled your empire for too long, Ji-un said gently. That's what we hope to change. Dowan gestured to an empty seat at the council table. Join us, please. We need voices like yours in the discussion that follows. Surprised, Tella took the seat. A Voth civilian had never been invited to a council meeting before. 27 minutes ago, you demonstrated what you believed was absolute power. Dowan addressed the council. Now we have shown you what true power looks like, but power without wisdom is dangerous. Subin stepped forward. We've analyzed your empire's structure. Your 17 sectors include 43 different species, all living under Voth rule. Some willingly, many not. Our proposal is simple, Dowan continued. The Voth Imperium will transition to a cooperative alliance. Each world will have representation. Decisions will be made collectively, not imposed from above. Krell laughed without humor. And if we refuse? There is no refusal possible, Ji-un said quietly. Your empire as you knew it ended the moment you executed Ji-ho, Han-Du-wan added. But your civilization can continue. Your people can thrive in a new system based on cooperation rather than dominance. Tella spoke up, her voice trembling slightly. The old ways aren't working. Many of us know this. Even before today, there were those who questioned the empire's methods. A hidden resistance? Krell asked, surprised. Not organized, Tella explained. Just individuals who wanted change but had no power to create it. On the screens around the room, a new image appeared. It showed Ji-ho Han as she had been in life, smiling, curious, full of hope for understanding between species. My sister believed in the possibility of genuine cooperation, Dowan said. She saw good in your people, even as they prepared to execute her. The council members looked at the image of the human girl whose death had changed everything. We will need time to adjust, Councillor Mira said after a long silence. Our people have lived under the Imperium for thousands of years. Change will not be easy. You will have help, Subin assured her. Earth has prepared transition protocols for each world in your empire. The process will be gradual and respectful of local customs. And the nanites? Krell asked. Will they remain in our systems forever? They will stay long enough to ensure a peaceful transition, Dowan said. After that, control of your technology will return to you. But remember this moment, and what it teaches about judging other species by appearances. 27 minutes after Ji-ho Han's execution, the Voth Imperium formally acknowledged its end. The announcement went out to all worlds under their control. The age of dominance was over. The age of cooperation had begun, and on Nexus Prime, where it had all started, the particles that had once been Ji-ho Han drifted on the wind, a silent witness to the change her death had brought. 1 year had passed since the day the Voth Imperium fell. On Nexus Prime, in the exact spot where Ji-ho Han had been executed, a memorial garden now bloomed. Plants from Earth grew alongside flowers from 43 other worlds, creating a living symbol of cooperation. Do-1. Han walked slowly through the garden paths. He wore civilian clothes now, having resigned his military position 6 months ago. The transition from Empire to Alliance had needed a different kind of leadership than a military commander could provide. Subin Park walked beside him. She too had left military service, choosing instead to work with the new Galactic Cooperation Council that had replaced the Imperial government. It looks different every time I visit, Do-won said, looking at the garden. More alive. Subin nodded. The botanical team says the plants are adapting to each other, creating a new ecosystem, like the Alliance itself. They reached the center of the garden, where a simple stone monument stood. It bore Jiho's name in the languages of all member worlds. Around the base of the monument, thousands of small lights glowed softly, each one containing a tiny portion of the nanites that had carried Jiho's neural patterns. Do you think she would be proud of what we've built? Do-won asked quietly. I think she would, Subin replied. It's everything she believed was possible. A group of students entered the garden from the opposite side. They were a mixed group, humans, Voth, and several other species. They wore the uniforms of the new intergalactic academy that had replaced the old imperial education system. Leading them was Tella, the young Voth female who had witnessed Jiho's execution. After the fall of the Empire, she had become an important voice in the transition, speaking for Voth citizens who wanted change. And this is the Jiho Han Memorial Garden, Tella explained to the students. It stands as a reminder of how a single life can change the course of history. The students listened attentively. To them, the Empire was already becoming a distant memory. They had grown up in the new alliance, where cooperation was valued over dominance. Tella noticed Do-won and Subin. She led her students toward them. This is a special opportunity, she told the group. Captain Han and Commander Park can tell you more about Jiho than anyone. A young Voth student stepped forward. Is it true that humans hid their technology for 30 years? That seems like a very long time to pretend. Do-won smiled. It does, doesn't it? But we believed it was necessary. After the first contact wars, we realized that revealing too much too quickly would only lead to fear and more conflict. So you showed a false face to the galaxy, the student said. Not false, Subin corrected. Just incomplete. The peaceful, curious nature of humanity that you saw was real. We simply kept some of our capabilities private until they were needed. A human student raised her hand. My parents say the nanite network is still active. Is that true? Parts of it remain, Do-won admitted. But its purpose has changed. What once was a hidden defense system now helps coordinate communication and cooperation between worlds. The students asked more questions, which Do-won and Subin answered patiently. These young people represented the future of the Alliance. Their understanding mattered. After the students left, Tella stayed behind. The first graduating class of the Academy will finish next month, she told Do-won and Subin. Many of them. We'll join the Cooperation Council as junior representatives. That's good to hear, Do-won said. Fresh perspectives are important. Tella looked at the monument. Sometimes I still see her face. The way she looked at me just before. She paused. I didn't do anything to help her. You're helping now, Subin said gently. That's what matters. They walked together toward the exit of the garden. The central plaza beyond had been completely transformed. Where once imperial banners had hung, now the symbols of all member worlds were displayed equally. The council has approved the expansion of the academic exchange program, Tella said as they walked. Next year, 10,000 students from all member worlds will study on Earth. And how many Earth students will visit other worlds? Do-won asked. 5,000 spread across the Alliance. Interest is high, despite what happened to Jiho. Because of what happened to Jiho, Subin corrected. Her story inspired many to follow in her footsteps. In orbit above Nexus Prime, the Earth vessel Horizon maintained its position. It was now the flagship of the Alliance Defense Fleet, a cooperative force with crews from multiple worlds. Lieutenant Ji-un Cho, now Captain Cho, commanded the ship. From the bridge, Ji-un watched as shuttlecraft moved between the planet and the various ships in orbit. Traffic had increased tenfold since the formation of the Alliance. Trade, cultural exchanges, and diplomatic missions flowed freely, where once strict imperial controls had limited movement. Captain, her first officer reported, the Voth delegation is ready to board for transport to Earth. Thank you, Ji-un replied. Make sure all diplomatic protocols are followed. This particular mission was significant, the first time Voth representatives would visit Earth itself. For decades, such a visit would have been unthinkable. Now it was simply routine diplomacy. Ji-un looked at a small image she kept on her command console. It showed her and Ji-ho during academy training, both smiling at the camera. Ji-ho had been 2 years behind her, eager to follow her friend into space. "We did it, Ji-ho," she whispered. "We changed everything." On Earth, the United Alliance government was in session. Representatives from all member worlds sat in the circular chamber, discussing matters affecting the entire alliance. The old, United Earth government had expanded to include voices from across the galaxy. Defense Minister Tae-hyun-ryu, now Alliance Security Coordinator, addressed the assembly. "The transition period is officially complete," he announced. "The last Imperial military base has been converted to Alliance control. The former empire is now fully integrated into our cooperative structure." Quiet applause filled the chamber. It had been a long, challenging year with resistance from those who clung to old ways. But the change had come, peaceful but unstoppable. "There is one final matter," Tae-hyun continued. "The naming of our new alliance. After much discussion, the Council proposes the Ji-ho Accord as our official designation. The vote was unanimous. The name honored both the catalyst for change and the principles that guided the new alliance: curiosity, cooperation, and forgiveness. In the memorial garden on Nexus Prime, as evening fell, the lights around Ji-ho's monument glowed brighter. The nanites responded to the changing light, creating patterns that spread through the garden like flowing water. Visitors often reported a strange feeling in the garden, especially at twilight. A sense of peace, of presence. Some swore they could hear a young woman's laughter on the evening breeze. Scientists explained it as a side effect of the nanite network, which still contained fragments of Ji-ho's neural patterns. The more poetic visitors suggested that something of Ji-ho's spirit remained, watching over the peace her sacrifice had created. Whatever the truth, one thing was certain. A single human girl, eliminated on a live broadcast, had not been forgotten. And the empire that thought her death would demonstrate their power had instead revealed their fatal weakness. They had mistaken humanity's peaceful nature for weakness. They had failed to understand that sometimes the most dangerous species are those who hide their true strength until it is absolutely necessary to reveal it. And 27 minutes was all it took to change the galaxy forever.